Today, summer means a constant hum of air conditioners, fighting the heat with a flick of a switch and a huge bill. But for hundreds of years, homes stayed cool without any of that. They felt like a gentle breeze, even on the hottest days, with deep shadows and smart windows, just like the old Gamble house. Two very different ways to live with the sun. One costs you everything, the other gives you peace. It's a powerful idea, isn't it? That our homes could give us peace instead of a massive bill. Today, we take AC for granted, but it's easy to forget just how much of a struggle the heat used to be. We're not just talking about being a little uncomfortable. It was a serious, miserable problem. In old city apartment buildings, for example, it would get so hot and stuffy that people would literally leave their homes to go sleep in parks. Used to get some relief. That's how bad it was. But what's wild is that the solution was already figured out, thousands of years ago. One architect visiting some ancient stone ruins in Turkey noticed something amazing. Outside, it was blazing hot and humid. But inside those old, thick-walled buildings? It was perfectly comfortable. They knew secrets about working with the sun, not just fighting it. So today, we're going to look back at that forgotten wisdom. We'll explore how these old designs worked, and how we can use those same ideas to make our own homes cooler, calmer, and a whole lot cheaper to live in. So how did we get here? How did we design houses that fight the sun instead of working with it? Well, a lot of it comes down to what we think a modern house should look like. Think about it. We love huge, floor-to-ceiling windows that let in tons of natural light. But if those windows aren't shaded, all that beautiful sunlight is just baking the inside of your house all day long. An old, famous home in California called the Gamble House did the exact opposite. It has these really deep roof overhangs that hang way over the walls. They act like a permanent visor, shading the house during the hottest parts of the day. The windows are also surprisingly small. The goal wasn't to let all the light in, it was to keep all the heat out. Then there's the air itself. Old house designs, like the classic Sjökan style, were often just one room wide. You could open the front and back doors and get a perfect breeze flowing straight through the entire house. It's called cross ventilation, and it's one of the simplest and most effective ways to cool a space down. But today, with our complex floor plans, that straight path for air is gone. Hot, stuffy air gets trapped inside with nowhere to go. We've also changed where we fight the sun. The most effective way to block the sun's heat is from the outside asterisco, with things like awnings, shutters, or even just a well-placed tree. But we've mostly moved our defenses indoors. We use blinds and curtains, but by the time the sun hits them, the heat is already inside the glass and warming up the room. We're reclosing the barn door after the horse has bolted. But maybe the biggest difference is in the very bones of our homes. Those ancient stone ruins in Turkey were so comfortable because the thick, heavy walls acted like a thermal battery. They would slowly soak up heat during the day, keeping the inside cool. Then, they slowly release that heat at night. Modern homes, built with lightweight frames and drywall, just don't have that ability. When the sun hits them, they heat up fast, turning the inside into an oven. We didn't set out to build hotboxes. But by forgetting these old, simple rules, that's exactly what we've done. We've built homes that depend on a machine to be comfortable. Let's take a closer look at that old home in Pasadena, California, the Gamble House. It's a perfect example of how to work with the environment, but that is the brilliant part. In the winter, the sun is much lower in the sky. The angle is just right so that the sunlight sneaks under the overhangs, streaming into the windows to naturally warm up the home. It's a simple, elegant system that adapts to the seasons all by itself. They also understood how to handle airflow. Think about the layout. Almost every bedroom in the Gamble House is placed on a corner. That wasn't an accident. It means each bedroom has windows on two different walls. You can open them both and create a perfect cross breeze, pulling fresh air through the room and pushing the hot, stale air out. It's a simple trick, but it makes a world of difference. This kind of thinking, designing specifically for your climate, is absolutely critical. You see, a design that works perfectly in sunny Pasadena might be a disaster somewhere else. The famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright, for example, designed a beautiful house up in Buffalo, New York. But the owner reportedly complained that it was cold and dark. The design wasn't a good fit for the long, gray winters there. The Gamble House, on the other hand, is a masterpiece because it was built for its exact spot on the map. It proves that the smartest way to live comfortably isn't with a powerful machine, but with a thoughtful design. But this thoughtful design went way beyond just clever roofs and corner windows. The real secret was in the floor plan itself, the very bones of the house. Before air conditioning, the goal was to make your home breathe. And one of the most direct ways to do that was with a design called the Shotgun House. Imagine a house with all the rooms lined up in a single file, one right after the other, with no central hallway. The name came from a pretty simple idea: if you stood at the front door and fired a shotgun, the blast would fly straight through every room and out the back door. It's a dramatic image, but it perfectly explains the goal. With the front and back doors open, you get a powerful, straight shot of air that cools down every single room along the way. But moving air side to side was only half the battle. The real genius was figuring out how to move it up. This is called the stack effect, and it's based on a simple fact: hot air rises. Old homes used this to their advantage. Take the Cupola house in North Carolina, built way back in 1758. It has a small, windowed room right at the very peak of its roof, the cupola. This little room acted like a chimney for the entire house. As the hot, stuffy air rose up through the home, it would exit out the cupola's windows. This created a vacuum effect, pulling cooler air in through the open windows on the ground floor. It turned the whole house into a natural, self-cooling engine. Builders in places like Florida combined all these tricks. They used big porches to create shade, high ceilings to let the heat rise, and steeply pitched roofs to guide that hot air up and out. Of course, it's easy to look back and think this was some kind of lost secret to perfect living. But it wasn't always a success. In old city tenements, they tried to create ventilation with narrow light shafts between buildings. The idea was to let in air and light. But in reality, these shafts just became tunnels for noise and smells from 20 other families. Instead of a fresh breeze, you got your neighbors cooking and conversations. Still, the principle was sound. They were designing homes to be active partners with the environment, not sealed boxes fighting against it. They understood that the smartest way to stay cool was to let the house do the work. So how do we bring these brilliant old ideas into our modern lives? How can we make our homes a little wiser, a little more in tune with the world outside? Well, one of the most powerful concepts is something called thermal mass. Think of it like turning your house into a giant, slow-charging battery, but for temperature. Architect Larry Speck tells a great story about visiting ancient Roman ruins in Turkey. Even on a blazing hot day, the inside of these old stone buildings was shockingly cool and comfortable,